Welcome to the RAL Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schloe. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the Silver Tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RAL Assisted Living Podcast, the podcast that brings you expert insights from leaders in assisted living. Our goal is to give you the insights to help you launch an assisted living home or the confidence to invest in this high-performing and rapidly growing sector. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Schloe, and today I'm thrilled to have my co-host, Charlie Cameron, on the podcast. It's going to be a good time. Charlie, how are things going?
Good, man. Good. Really excited to be launching this podcast with you. And man, we have so many amazing episodes already queued up. But before we get to those, we wanted to just give you guys some insights, kind of our take on the 10 steps to opening a home. But before we jump into that, Alex, why don't you give our listeners just a little background on yourself?
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm Dr. Alex Schloe. I'm a Christ follower, husband, father, family medicine physician in the Air Force, and real estate investor. I love teaching folks about real estate, physicians in particular. I have a podcast also called Physicians and Properties, and a community built out there. And then, of course, we have the RAL Room and the residential assisted living community, which is so awesome. It's been a really cool journey for me in the real estate investing space, which luckily, Charlie, we've been able to walk together through the majority of it, which has been amazing. And it's been awesome having you as a partner and a friend, and looking forward to talking more, through that and what makes partnerships ideal as we go further on through this podcast journey. But really kind of my journey into real estate started with a $58 out-of-pocket payment to buy a house in Eglin Air Force Base with a physician loan, no money down. But we kind of did a live-in flip light, my wife and I, and turned that into a long-term rental. And then, of course, Charlie, we partnered on some short-term rentals and bought some short-term rentals and repositioned a few of those, and then kind of dabbled in all different assets of real estate at this point. Invested in a syndication for a mobile home park, helped raise money for a hotel in the Smoky Mountains. We house hack our basement where we live for free. Or almost for free in Colorado Springs. And then, of course, the residential assisted living investments and a short-term rental in the mountains that we own together. So it's been a really fun journey. I think I have a little bit of shiny object syndrome, but I think it's important to kind of experience all those different assets of real estate to figure out, well, what do I really like, or what do I love, and what do I want to spend all my time, energy, and focus on from a real estate perspective? And that is residential assisted living. And of course, we're going to talk way more about that and the benefits of assisted living and kind of why we think that's the best asset class to invest in right now from a real estate perspective. But to give folks kind of a broad overview, Charlie, Luke, our other partner, and ourselves, we own 5 assisted living homes in Arizona. And then we also own 3 through a small equity position through a fund that we started, an assisted living fund, the first residential assisted living fund. We own 3 right now as of this recording on October 3rd in Wisconsin. And we're hoping by the time this comes out, even maybe we have some more deals that are done. But we really love the residential assisted living space, the value that provides, and the ability to change the face of senior care.
Dude, that was a great intro. I'll go into mine, and then we can jump into the 10 steps. So for me, similar background. We both met because we were investors also in the Air Force. We met through Bigger Pockets, of course. And the rest is history. We've done many deals together now, and it just speaks to how amazing it could be when you partner with others. So always have an open mind, because you never know what's going to happen and where you're going to find people that complement your weaknesses, and together you make a stronger team than you would individually. And you can accomplish much more with partnerships, undoubtedly, than you can on your own. So always have an open mind out there when you're getting started in this or any other sector of real estate or entrepreneurship. But I did 11 years active duty. I'm also a father, also a husband of an active duty spouse. And now I'm a reservist, went full-time real estate while I was active duty, about a little over 7 years ago, I got started by buying two fourplexes as rental properties all at once, self-managed as a brand new dad. So I've made every mistake there is to make, and paid for them. But um, ultimately, what I really learned is that taking action overcomes everything else. And your willingness to take action and solve problems is really what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And if I hadn't bought those 8 units, I wouldn't be sitting here today with you, after evolving from multiple multifamily properties and investing in syndications, then with you building a short-term rental portfolio, and now we're into assisted living, and we're going full bore into it. And like you said, you just don't know what you're gonna like till you try it. But the cool thing is you will learn things and take things away from all of those pieces along the way. Even if there's failures along the way, you're going to learn a ton from those that will make you a better person. Those are lessons that can't be taken away. Those are skill sets that can't be taken away. And you may end up where we are, which is now, buying residential assisted living homes, both lease to operator, and raising money and being part of the operations of homes. I mean, it's just crazy to look at where we've come in our journey. But that's not what we're here to talk about today, right? So why don't you kick it off, Alex, with what specifically is a residential assisted living home?
Absolutely, Charlie. I'd love to. So, folks who are listening to this, you probably have at least some sort of idea about assisted living or maybe residential assisted living as well. But a residential assisted living home is going to be a licensed residential property, or typically a large single family house that has been renovated to accommodate taking care of seniors. This typically is not medical care that's happening in these homes. This is assistance with activities of daily living. So those are activities related to personal care, like bathing, showering, dressing, getting in and out of bed, walking, using the toilet, cooking their meals, those sorts of things that are instrumental to activities of daily living. This is not your big box facility that we're all, kind of familiar with, like a Brookdale or something like that, which is, hundreds of residents, caregivers that are taking care of 20, 30 residents. This is not that. This is a personalized home care environment, really a community for seniors to thrive, in their last years of life, and to maintain that independence as much as they can. So these folks are typically, past the point of independent living to the point where they need help with those activities of daily living. And we'll talk about how there's other, more specific residential assisted living niches like memory care, ventilator homes, etc., throughout this podcast going forward. But that's a broad overview of what a residential assisted living home is. Charlie, can you? Oh, sorry, buddy. Charlie, can you tell folks the three big reasons why we love investing in residential assisted living?
Yeah, so we can just lump everything into three categories. One is growth. Really, that's talking about the demographics and the supply versus demand in the space. Freedom, or financials, that you can achieve financial freedom from one home, but more than that, it financially makes sense for the residents and the families as well. And then purpose, or fulfillment, right? You can get so much fulfillment out of owning these homes and providing rewarding service to residents, their families, the community, the caretakers, the staff. You're really creating an amazing, amazing home for these residents, and it can really be fulfilling in that respect.
Absolutely love that. Let's talk a bit about the Silver Tsunami that's happening. Some folks I think are familiar with the Silver Tsunami from the perspective of a lot of mom and pop business owners selling their businesses, that aspect of the Silver Tsunami. We're talking about the Silver Tsunami in terms of demographic data that's helpful when you're thinking about investing in residential assisted living, investing in assisted living or senior care as a whole. And the numbers just really don't lie. I mean, it's projected already that the United States is roughly 1 million assisted living beds short. And those numbers do vary based off different sources, but their projections are looking at about 1.3 million beds short by 2029. And the reason behind that, which is crazy to think about, is right now about 82% of folks that are in these assisted living homes are part of the silent generation. So the baby boomer generation is not even in these homes yet, which is crazy. When you think about the baby boomer generation is 77 million strong. There's 77 million boomers. That's a lot of boomers. And and 7 out of 10 of them are going to require long-term care. So 59 million baby boomers are going to require long-term care. The supply and demand aspect of this just makes it such an incredible opportunity going forward. And it's really important as we're thinking about this from an investment perspective, but it's also a huge crisis that's going to happen. Like, we really need to be the forefront of this in order to increase the number of beds that are available, and more importantly, increase the quality of care that's available for this generation and for our seniors going forward.
Yeah, we shared an article just the other day, a brand new article that came out that said, hey, we looked at how many units, beds are being built for assisted living versus what the demand is going to be. And the demand is going to outpace current supply by 3.5x what's required. And by, I believe it was 2030, there's going to be a $300 billion gap in how many need to be built, $300 billion expense of assisted living that's not built yet, that still needs to be built. So it really is kind of crazy that this is going to continue to outpace supply.
Yeah, and we didn't even really hit on like why we love it so much from a real estate perspective. But I think, Charlie, and I know you agree, like this is probably the best opportunity in real estate investing right now. Can you hit on real quick why we love assisted living from the perspective of other real estate investment opportunities that are out there?
Yeah, so assisted living is a little different because it's also a business in that box. But what's really interesting is in these residential homes, you can look at this one of two ways, whether you do lease to these operators that operate these business or you operate the business. But either way, these are licensable homes. That license carries value. So you usually have to outfit these homes with sprinkler systems. You may need roll-in showers. You have to do a number of things to make them suitable for assisted living. But that's increasing value. And so what you're doing is you're creating these business boxes that are much higher resale value and can lease for much higher or produce more income than a similar home. I have never seen a residential home produce more income than a residential assisted living home. So in the terms of highest and best use for a residential property, this is it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Even our Airbnb in the mountains in Colorado, which is grossing over $100,000 per year. Don't say that to flex at all, but like, that is way more work and effort than it is to lease to an operator for an assisted living home. And I'll be honest, like, I get a lot more gratitude and I feel a lot better by providing that assisted living home than I do
Oh,
providing
man.
the Airbnb.
Yeah.
I'm sure you agree. And so, and we're not having to deal with all the maintenance issues and cleaners that don't show up at the last minute and all those sorts of things that happen with the short-term rental too. So I agree with you. There's not a vehicle to cash flow as much as residential assisted living in real estate right now. And I don't think there will be to come. And there's certainly not a real estate investing asset class that provides such an incredible service for folks and takes such better care of folks. And I think residents really love residential assisted living because these homes are community-like environment. They're high quality, they're safe, they're clean. And there's a higher ratio of caretakers to residents. I mean, we're seeing typically 1 to 5 one caregiver for every 5 residents, or maybe up to 8, depending. But it's just so much better than those big box facilities where it can be 1 to 15, 1 to 30 or more. And oftentimes these homes are close to the family members, so they're able to come visit with their loved one, and that is integrated into the community, into the neighborhood. And so the seniors, the residents, really benefit from that community aspect as well. And not to mention, it's actually more cost effective, which blew my mind to think about, that residential assisted living is actually a more cost effective modality of care than some of the others.
Yeah, when on the point of being cost effective, if you want to compare this to a nursing home, which is what most people think of when they think of assisted living, I mean you're looking at on average nearly 6 figures per year to have a loved one in a nursing home. For an in-home aid, if you were to bring someone into your home, so that let's say you could still continue working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you're still looking at nearly $80,000 a year to do that. Versus a residential assisted living home, the median cost right now is somewhere around $4,500 for standard assisted living type facility or type home. And so, you're having a tens of thousands of dollars to, half of six figures savings a year by choosing residential assisted living. Not only that, but you're getting a much higher caretaker to resident ratio than you would in a nursing home, which is unbelievable. When you talk to the families of the residents of these homes, they a lot of them didn't even know that this existed before, because this is still a new model coming online, and they are so grateful for the opportunity for having found these homes and being able to place their mom or their dad in these homes, because they just know they're getting better care and better attention, which is pretty incredible. And to your point of fulfillment, I just want to touch on that for a second, because I started a multifamily. Okay, I guess giving someone a place to live is fulfilling. That's okay. But I was in a lot of B minus, C plus class when I got started, because that's what I can afford, and that wears on you after a while. And you don't have a lot of pride of ownership of the property. Maybe not so much fulfillment of housing people. Then we went to short-term rentals, and wow, those properties are cool, right? We have ours themed out. Your wife themed ours and one of mine, which they're amazing. And so you get a pride of ownership of how cool the properties are. And every now and then you get good guests, and that's cool. But man, then you get the crappy guests, and you wonder why you're still in it, right? Versus here, you get total fulfillment by housing seniors in their kind of final years of life and providing them a much better environment than what's typically available. And this is one of the reasons we think that residential assisted living is going to dominate versus those big box facilities over the next 2 decades.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I don't know about you, but nothing makes me more excited than getting a phone call on Thanksgiving Day that the water heater is out at a short-term rental, which happens. It's always at the worst time that those things happen, and then when it rains, it pours, as we know from that perspective. Now, of course, things happen in assisted living, and this is really hard. Especially if you operate these homes as well, and you're a caregiver, you're trying to hire folks. Like, it is very difficult. We're not trying to make it sound like it's easy, but the fulfillment that comes with that, and frankly, the financial reward that comes with residential assisted living offsets that. And, if this is something that you're interested in or something that you love to do, keep listening to this podcast, because we're getting ready to really hit some 10 steps to get started buying your first or next assisted living. But these are just some reasons why we really love it and why we think this is a great investment opportunity. And there's kind of two different ways, from an investing perspective to think about it. I'd really say there's three. One would be owning the real estate and operating the business. So that means you own the property, and you also are in charge of or providing the care for the senior. So you're really involved in that day-to-day level of care. Next would be owning the real estate and leasing the business to the operator, which is what 5 of our homes are. And so we own the house, and then we lease that out to an operator. The operator runs all the day-to-day care. So Charlie and I are not involved in the care of these residents. It's done by fantastic operators. And that's the most important part too, is finding the best operator. Finding the right operator is the linchpin from this perspective. But if you can find the right operator and own the real estate, lease it out to them, that's what we're talking about when this can be quite passive and provide the cash flow similar to a short-term rental, or really more cash flow than a short-term rental consistently. And so that's a fantastic way to do it as well. And then, of course, passive investing into residential assisted living. And what we mean by that would be, for example, like investing in our assisted living fund, where you're getting a return on your money and you're not having to do any of it. And so you have a small, equity percentage potentially, or you're getting interest on your money and getting that mailbox money, which is pretty awesome too. So there's multiple ways to invest in residential assisted living, all with a lot of benefits.
Yeah, and when we talk about cash flow for these homes, now this model can vary greatly by state, by how many bedrooms, by how nice the home is. There's a lot of factors that go into this. So these might just be considered averages as to what you can do and what we try and help our RAL members achieve. If you own the real estate and operate the business, then at the end of the day, you could be looking at anywhere between 10,000 to 20,000 per month in cash flow. And that would be looking at maybe a 10-bed home as a minimum to get you to that point. It definitely would need to be a little bit nicer of a home. Doesn't have to be the most luxurious home. However, the nicer the home, the higher the income. If you're providing additional pieces like memory care, which of course requires higher needs and locks and all sorts of additional requirements, a different level of certification, then that number could be higher. And that number can potentially still include having a manager in place. So even if you own the home and you operate the business, you're going to have to be involved. Absolutely. But you can hire home managers and lead caretakers and really outsource some of that work and still cash flow significantly on one house. Name one other real estate investment that you can purchase that the cash flow is 6 figures a year. I would challenge you to. And then on the other side, if you own the real estate but lease to the business, like we've done with 5 homes, you're looking at taking home anywhere between 2,500 to 5,000 a month, which is pretty insane because you don't actually operate the business. But because you own this licensable home that's retrofitted for assisted living, that's super nice, and is ready to meet this need, it's marketable, for 2 to 3 times what the normal residential lease rate would be, is what we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely right. And just for context for folks who are listening, the latest deal that we did from a memory care perspective was we bought the house for $975,000 and we leased that out on a 5-year lease with a 3% annual increase for $11,000 per month, and that increases every year by 3%. So pretty substantial cash flow with that. The latest assisted living home we did, that one is we purchased that for $750,000, and that's leased out for $7,900 per month. So we're getting well over the 1% rule, for sure, with these homes that folks are familiar, and so they're cash flowing substantially, which is amazing. But as always, when you're getting started investing or thinking about investing, I would say that determining your goals are probably the most important thing. Would you agree, Charlie?
Yeah, it's crazy to me how many people just go out there and say, I'm going to buy a rental. It's like, okay, but why? Right? Because I should own rental property. Okay, but why? Because I want to cash flow $150 a month. Okay, well, how does that help you achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve? Is that going to get rid of your $10,000 a month W-2? Not anytime soon, right? So it's so important to start with your vision of your life. And then from that, I call it a life intent. Then break that down into, okay, how can I achieve that? What kind of income would get me there? Does it have to be passive? Can it be partially active? What do I want to achieve at the end of the day? Does residential assisted living fit into that need, into what I want to achieve? So then you can decide, hey, maybe I want to buy and I want to lease out. Maybe I want to buy but hire managers and scale a bigger portfolio. I mean, the world is kind of your oyster. Maybe I don't want to do any of that and I want to invest passively in the fund, right? Still get the benefits of real estate, still get the benefits of the business and the valuation that's going to continue to grow over time, but not have to do any of it yourself. So you have options there, but just kind of consider what will work for you, what you can achieve while doing what you're already doing, like if you have a job, right? And then find the help you need to do the thing, right? And then break that down into monthly tasks, weekly tasks, and start going after it. Take action.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, something that's so important is surrounding yourself with the right people, the right community, the right network. Like I would say the number one thing to do, as you already mentioned, is taking action. And that can be imperfect action, but it's just getting started. And the number 2 most important thing you can do is surround yourself with the right people. Get in the right network, get in the right mastermind, join the RAL-ready mastermind. Of course, we think that's the best place to be if you're wanting to buy your first or next residential assisted living home. But surrounding yourself with the right people is also going to give you the opportunity to partner with folks. Like that's how we met, and Luke, and deal opportunities that never would have been available as well. And so it's just such a great way to do it. And then that also gives you that protection or kind of the ability to run different deals off each other and work together, and adds another layer of security because there's someone else that you can run your deal through and ask questions and go from there. If you want to go far, you want to go together. If you want to go fast, you can go by yourself, but you're not going to grow nearly as much if you're going by yourself as if you are walking with a network or a community of folks who are going to pull you up along the way.
100%. 100%. Couldn't agree more. We couldn't have done what we've done without our networks and the masterminds we've been a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a game changer for me. So anyways, let's get to why the people are here, let's talk about 10 steps to open your first assisted living home. Now, this is not going to be completely comprehensive by any means, and we do have a free 10-step guide that will include the links to the show notes. So you can download that 10-step guide. It's going to have a lot more detail than what we're talking about today. And we really encourage you to take a look at that. It's free, and it's a great way to figure out, hey, is this something that I may be interested in, or answer some questions that you have. So we'll go ahead and get started kind of talking about 10 steps to open your first or your next residential assisted living home. Charlie, do you mind talking about step one, which can be the more difficult step, which is licensing requirements?
Yeah, this is probably the least favorite step, yet it's number one, and it's probably one of the most important, right? So it's important to know that if you want to play the game, you have to know the rules, okay? So in assisted living, in short-term rentals, there's some licensing requirements in most places now. Well, assisted living has always had it, and they regulate on a much higher level because you have to think about why, because people's lives are at stake, right? So it's very important that these regulations be in place by the state agencies and localities. So it's important to understand that these regulatory agencies you got to look at as partners in your ultimate goal. And then you have to go out there and do the research. So you start off by saying, hey, what is the state regulatory agency for assisted living? For residential assisted living? What are the requirements for opening a residential assisted living home? What does the state require for the home or property and the business? How much staff training is required to become an administrator for one of these homes? What inspections are required? How are you going to facilitate those? How many residents are allowed in the home based on the state? Now, the local zoning will have other requirements potentially that may limit that as well. So you have to kind of take both of those into account. And then what is the application process? And all this is pretty clear. So we've got a list of all 50 states and what the regulatory agencies are. You simply go there and you start digging through the online resources, and then you go find the right people to talk to. I mean, the state agencies, you're paying taxes. They're there to support you and help answer these questions. So you don't have to figure it out alone. You can simply go and talk to the state licensing agency to figure out some of this information. Which leads us into even more regulatory things. So take it away with step two, Alex.
Yeah, step two is going to be looking more at your locality. So where you are from more of a micro level than the state. So the state regulations, super important. Next are going to be those local regulations and requirements. And each locality is different in the way that they allow home licensing for residential assisted living. And one thing that we've figured out or unfortunately learned is a lot of times these different municipalities or localities don't really understand even what a residential assisted living home is. And so that first part of the process may be educating them on, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is a residential assisted living home. This is going to have 6 to 16 residents be in a home. And not that big box facility. Because a lot of times folks think immediately like, hey, this is going to be a Brookdale or a large commercial facility, and that's not the case. And so making sure you educate them on what you're trying to do is going to be really important. But then you need to look into what are the requirements for zoning? What are the requirements for that process? And that can include like regulations such as how close a home can be to another licensed facility, how many residents can be in a specific home. Sometimes there's square footage and size requirements of the rooms, number of bathrooms that are required, fire suppression and safety considerations, types of different building codes that will need to be met. And so those things are really important to think through. And a lot of that can be found by talking with the local licensing authority or the zoning department or regulatory agency with the planning department there at your locality.
Sorry to interrupt this episode, but if you're listening to this, then you're already an action taker. And that means you are exactly who we built the RAL Room Assisted Living Mastermind for. If you're ready to unlock financial freedom by launching your own residential assisted living home, our community of like-minded entrepreneurs and industry experts will give you the exact steps to make that happen. From licensing to acquiring a home to funding your home to scaling to dozens of homes, we've got you covered. We don't just offer guidance, we provide you with the roadmap, the resources, and the launch pad for your success. And the best part? The investment in yourself today will pay you back many times over, giving you freedom, fulfillment, and financial success in the most incredibly rewarding opportunity in real estate. Ready to dive in? Check out theRALroom.com and join us today. That's the RALroom.com. Hope to see you soon. Now back to the episode.
So that's really going to be important. Some other things to think about, maybe like, what is that actual process for approval from a residential assisted living perspective? What are some of the zoning or restrictions that could prevent a home from being licensed? Like in Arizona, for example, they have in the Glendale area where you have to be at least 1,200 feet away from the next closest one as a crow flies. So is there a similar restriction from that perspective? Are there specific residents that can be there? What are the renovation requirements that may be needed? So there are a lot of different things to think through from a regulations perspective. But of course, you have to know, like, hey, can I play the game? Like you mentioned, Charlie, like, is this even a possibility where I want to invest? And if you get no, if they say no initially, it might just really lead back to you have to educate them, talk to them about what you're doing. And we found that going in person is ideal if you can, but if not, it's hopping on the phone, talking to someone instead of, sending an email or just looking online. Oftentimes, just asking the right question can get you the answer that you're looking for. Next is going to be, once you've gone through that state regulation perspective, the local regulation perspective, you need to estimate cost. Charlie, talk a little bit more about kind of costs when you're getting started.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to this coin. There's the real estate costs and there are the business costs. On the real estate side, that's buying the property or leasing the property. That's renovations or building it from the ground up, if that's what you decide to do. And there's furnishing the property and be able to continuously handle maintenance, repairs, capital expenditures along the way. And these are not always the easiest things to figure out, especially the renovations when it comes to assisted living, as well as the business side. So you got to keep in mind, you've got to maintain 24/7 staff. From the time you place your first resident, you've got 24/7 staff. And let me tell you, you are not breaking even at 24/7 staff with one resident, okay? You will be losing money. So you have to have a business runway. And that's something we encourage in the RAL Room. We help you figure out what that runway needs to be, how much cash you need to have on hand, how many residents you're going to place. When do you become break even? When do you start to really cash flow? When do you maximize and hit your pro forma numbers, right? Your optimal performance of the home. But on top of the staff, you've got just general operations. You've got utilities to pay. You've got services to provide. You've got liability insurance, licensing fees, property maintenance, feeding your residents, supplies for your residents. You've got payroll, taxes, you've got software, you've got tools, you've got marketing. So there's quite a number of expenses to capture. And on the marketing piece, it's really important to point this out. You have two options when it comes to placing residents. You can either market, which is far cheaper, and it allows you to have control over keeping your home full and will make it much easier to keep your home full, or you can rely on placement agencies. And we've seen people do this, and it usually leads to a death spiral because you may get the wrong residents. Those placement agencies are going to charge 1.2x the monthly resident rate. So now you've got a huge expense because that's every single bed in your home. Every time they place a resident, you're shelling out a huge expense. And usually that doesn't bode well if that's the only way you're placing, because you can't just go out and get another resident. You have to wait for a placement agency. So all these expenses are key. And when we talked about the cash flow of $10,000 to $20,000 a month, that's after paying all of these expenses I just listed here. But it's important to be able to do this financial outlay, which is why we had to go build a calculator to do exactly this, to help you with the real estate costs, to help you with typical assisted living renovation costs, to help you with the expenses, and to help you figure out, hey, if I bring a partner on or I bring investors, what does that still look like for my returns and their returns?
Yeah. And you mentioned your calculator, Charlie. Man, that thing is incredible. The calculator that you built, that would have taken me like 5 years to create. But you found a need. There isn't a great residential assisted living calculator out there to help you analyze these investment opportunities and, make that simple to provide to potential investors. And so that is another thing that we offer in the RAL-ready Mastermind is access to that calculator and the ability to print off sheets to that so that you can share that with the bank, you can share that with potential investors. It's pretty awesome, and really help you feel comfortable knowing, hey, is this a good investment opportunity or not? So definitely something that can be beneficial for folks who are listening. Another thing, we didn't even really hit on too much is the real estate costs themselves, right? Like, are you leasing that home out or are you buying that home and having to pay the mortgage? So there's definitely those real estate costs and business costs that are important. And thanks for hitting those, Charlie. Next step is going to be step number 4. So deciding to rent or buy. So that comes back to the real estate costs, right? How are you going to rent that home out and operate out of that home? Or you are going to purchase your own home and own the real estate? Of course, we're real estate investors. We love owning the real estate, but that might not be reasonable for everyone who's listening to this. Of course, that's going to require a large down payment, oftentimes 20 to 25% or potentially more, depending on where you're investing and what experience you have and what lending opportunities exist. And so you may not have the capital for that down payment. So leasing a home may be a better option for you. Figure out, also what are your long-term financial and operational goals? Is it to own the real estate as well? Or is it to just try and expand your business into as many homes as possible? If it's just expanding the business into many homes as possible, then maybe leasing that out would be more beneficial for you. So there's a lot of different options from that perspective, but it is important to understand, hey, do you want to rent a home out or lease that home, or do you want to buy your own home and have a little bit more ability to control the customization of the property and get those real estate tax benefits and equity growth, which is an amazing aspect of real estate and owning that real estate investment as well.
Yeah, and along the lines of the costs of getting started in this, and it's not just the financial cost, right? There may be skills you don't have that you need, or money that you still need and you could bring a partner to. So step 5 is to evaluate your experience and partnership options. We already mentioned how much we love partnerships. You can really accelerate your success and reduce risk with like-minded partners and investors and potentially even franchises. There are a number of fantastic franchises in the assisted living realm as well that we've even partnered with on some of our homes, which is awesome. But you can join a mastermind community is one example of how you can reduce your risk and find additional partners and find partners from a financing perspective, as well as to go into that together. So maybe somebody with a healthcare background wants to run the operations and you want to build the systems and raise the money and handle the real estate side. That's a great partnership opportunity right there. So you can partner with someone who has more experience as well, maybe somebody who's done a few of these, bring them in as a smaller share partner to advise on the deal. They get some equity, you have an aligned goal there. You can partner with somebody who has more money but less time, right? Maybe they'll come in and they'll do smaller tasks but bring the majority or all of the money. Because when we're talking about these homes, minimum, you're probably looking at low 6 figures to kind of get started. And so you could bring someone in that has money, but you have more time and you're willing to do more of the operations piece. Or you could partner with a franchise. So they'll help take you from zero to hero and help you launch your business as it relates to whatever they have done. So, we know franchise partners who, mostly ones that have done memory care, because that adds a whole another layer of difficulty and layer of challenge, but it's absolutely worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The returns are a lot higher with memory care. And I think about any real estate investment opportunity, there's 3 things that you need for any deal. And that's going to be the knowledge, the hustle, or the money. You only need 2 out of 3 of those to make it work. Ideally, all 3 if possible. And so if you're like, hey, like Charlie mentioned, like you have the knowledge or you have the time to hustle, you can find the money. And so that's where partnerships can be so key to complete that deal triangle and get ready to buy your first or next assisted living home. Let's talk about funding the deal for step 6 here. So we kind of broke this up when in thinking about funding both the real estate and funding the business as well. And so from a real estate perspective, there's a lot of different ways that you can fund this, and we're not going to dive too deep into each of these, but we'll talk a little bit about some options to think about. So if you're funding the real estate or just the purchase of the home, traditional bank mortgages, oftentimes 20 to 35% down, commercial loans, typically, but potentially some DSCR, debt service coverage ratio lending, which is a loan secured by the income of the property, is an option. So traditional bank mortgages, debt service coverage ratio lending, private lending is an option, or like hard money lending is an option, of course. Seller financing, which is an awesome opportunity as more and more of these mom and pops, the Silver Tsunami, are closing down their businesses or looking to sell their businesses. They may be looking to get some money in retirement. So you can come in and offer seller financing opportunities for them where they are acting as the bank, which is really cool. And we've done that for the last couple of deals that we've done. And it's been a huge win-win both for us and for the seller, because you can control the terms of that loan a lot more. Like the last deal we did, we paid 6% down, I think, 6% down payment, which is amazing. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what an awesome opportunity there from that perspective. But that requires, an opportunity explained to the seller so that they understand, hey, this is going to benefit both of us as a win-win. Partnerships, as we mentioned, another great way to fund the real estate. Subject to is an option. So you essentially will take over the owner's mortgage without formally assuming the loan in exchange for the title and deed or ownership. So you're kind of paying the mortgage on behalf of the owners or previous owners of the home. So that mortgage is continuing. So those are some options there. And the SBA lending, which we'll kind of talk about. SBA lending, or small business acquisition lending, can fund both the real estate and the business. So that's an option as we transition to talking about funding the real estate business. You can do that through SBA financing, but also some other ways would be like personal savings, local bank business loans, private lending, partnerships. Again, we keep hitting on partnerships a lot. Home equity line of credit, business line of credit, all those things would be potential to help you from a business perspective. And then, of course, SBA lending. Charlie, do you mind hitting a little bit about SBA lending for folks and how great of an opportunity that may be?
Yeah, SBA is fantastic if you can get it. It's definitely more difficult on your first loan, but not impossible. And we've drilled down with some SBA lenders, including those that are part of the RAL room, as to, hey, what is it going to take for a first timer to use this? Because it's so great. Usually the rates are lower. On just the business, you're looking at a 10-year term. On the business and the real estate, you can extend that runway out to about a 25-year term. And there's some limitations to uses of this. You're not going to be able to use SBA loans and scale a massive portfolio because there's limits. You'll have to do some refinancing in there. But it is a really great way. They'll let you build from the ground up. You can include renovations in there. You can include the business in there. I mean, and typically it's going to be a lower amount down payment, especially on future loans past the first one. So it really creates a lot of opportunity to help you grow, because guess what? The government knows we need assisted living too. So, SBA does provide some great opportunities to be able to grow in the space. So definitely you want to consider all of your options and build relationships, because again, your lender is part of your team. They are a partner in your business success. So you want to make either a local lender, an SBA lender, maybe both, as kind of long-term partners in your business success.
Yeah, I think of the SBA loan like you, honestly, Charlie, just the total package. You can you can wrap everything up into that one loan: the business, the real estate, the runway to get started, or even building from the ground up. So it's a really cool opportunity there. Let's talk a little bit more about the kind of ideal residential assisted living home, or what should folks be thinking about as they're looking to purchase a home for residential assisted living. Do you mind hitting on some ideal characteristics for assisted living home?
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about real estate: location, location, location. Now, it's important to note that residential assisted living is needed everywhere. However, some factors help. And so, safer areas, more affluent areas, that's going to drive higher resident rates. that's going to bring you the right residents and the right families to your home. Easy for families to visit. So you want to be closer to metro areas where more of the populations are. You want to be closer to highways and transportation so that people can come visit their family members. They want to come have dinner with mom and dad at your home. So that's pretty important. You typically want to avoid HOAs. We're not going to dive down the rabbit hole today about legalities of this, but it's interesting that, the elderly are a protected class. So technically speaking, HOAs, can they stop you? You could probably fight that battle, but it's better to just not and go without the HOA so that you can just do your own thing. And then, the closer you are to urban areas, and we've seen this with short-term rentals, this has created some PTSD, I think, in our lives of how hard it is to find great contractors, great staff, great cleaners. If your property's in a rural area, I think that's why we sold our one in Georgia. And, it's just a continuous headache. So the closer you are to areas with just a larger labor force, the easier it's going to be to run your home. When it comes to features of the home, typically you want to look for single story. And yes, you can do elevators and stuff, but everyone we know who's had a home with multiple stories has said, don't do it. Your goal is single story. You want as many bedrooms and bathrooms as possible, ensuite if possible, handicap accessible showers, roll in, roll out, a really well-equipped kitchen, because you got to remember, you got to cook meals for everyone in the home 3 times a day. Comfortable living area. So it can't just be bedrooms, right? You can't turn everything into a bedroom. They have to have a place to gather, a place to have a family feel, a place to build community, because these are still people that are social, right? And they want to be with others and hang out with others. And you want good curb appeal. You want the families, when they show up to that property, to go, wow, this is cool. This isn't like that big facility down the road that's a ratio of 1 caregiver to 30 residents. This is something totally different, and you want them to feel that when they pull up. And then the last piece we talked about, location and features, is licensable. And we've hit this already, but you need to have the appropriate zoning. You need to have the appropriate minimum bedroom square footage. There may be requirements like egress windows for bedrooms or accessibility features. You may need to meet distance requirements from other homes. You may need residential sprinkler systems. So you have to know what those requirements are in order to meet them, because ultimately, if the home's not licensable, it's not valuable at all for assisted living.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great list. And, certainly there's some other things that are beneficial, but I think that's a great overview of what you should be looking for from a home perspective as you're getting further into the journey. Once you have purchased the home or leased the home, it's time to hire your staff. That's step 8 for us here. And that's key. And this is going to be more applicable if you're owning the real estate and doing the operations or running the operations as well. But hiring your staff is really important, because I will say that great caregivers are going to be the key to your success. You need to treat them like gold. It's really hard to find them. It's really hard to keep them. So figure out how you can do that most effectively, and that's going to be the key to your success. As Charlie mentioned earlier, you're going to have 24/7 care for true assisted living. There's going to have to be a caregiver there at all hours of the day. And we'll kind of talk through some staff that are appropriate or staff that you'll need as we go through this. And, if you're thinking about, hey, I don't really want to be as hands-on in the business. Charlie mentioned a manager previously. So a licensed manager would be kind of the top of your org chart in terms of organization chart, if you're wanting to be more passive, but also be involved or own the operations in regards to this business. And so a licensed manager is typically someone who's salaried to run the total operations of your home. You can almost think of them as like the chief operations officer of your home. And they're typically able to manage a few homes. So be thinking about, hey, can I hire a manager who can run multiple homes to share those economies of scale? But that will be a way for you to one, grow going forward, and also work on your business instead of in your business. Now, this is going to be optional. You may want to manage the home yourself when you start and kind of learn the ropes, but just know, hey, a licensed manager may be an opportunity for you to oversee the day-to-day operations. Coming down that organizational chart, next would be that lead caregiver. So they are the ones that are typically updating the manager if you have one. They're training the staff. They're staying in tune with the residents, with the families. they're ensuring compliance and licensability, and they're providing top-notch care at all times. This is going to be kind of the boss, if you will, from a day-to-day perspective for any other caregivers they may be working alongside or anyone else they may be working with. And they're typically the ones that are going to coordinate visits with families for prospective residents and just really run that day-to-day care of the residents. And then oftentimes you're either going to have a certified caregiver or an assistant caregiver who's going to be working with that lead caregiver. And, oftentimes we'll have two caregivers during the day, one caregiver at night. But it just depends on, what your caregiver ratio is going to be, what level of care you're providing. But that's going to be really important as well to think about. And those caregivers are also going to be providing both, medication management, but also more of your non-medication related patient care under supervision. They help with cooking, they help with cleaning, and other tasks that the certified caregiver or that the lead caregiver is not able to complete, or that they're just helping to assist with. You're going to want to think about, hiring these folks from different areas. So some ways that may be helpful from a hiring perspective would be talking with some local schools who are training medical assistants, CNAs, nursing aides, et cetera. That can be helpful to see, hey, are these folks looking for jobs as they get their certification? Are they looking for opportunities to work as they're going to school? So that might be a good way to find some of these caregivers. Oftentimes folks will post different job openings on sites like Indeed or Monster or LinkedIn to find these caregivers or potential managers, as we mentioned before. You can place, hiring signs. You can join different Facebook groups. We have a large Facebook group. Posting in these different Facebook groups could be a great opportunity to find operators, caregivers, or managers. The employee referral program can be really helpful. And also talking to medical partners like clinics, home care agencies, hospitals, figuring out are folks looking to transition into another job can be really beneficial. And of course, social media can be a really great way to find folks too. Social media for your home can be beneficial. But hiring your staff is incredibly important. And we didn't even mention some of the other staff that are going to be helpful, or other members to your team, like a realtor, handyman, contractor, landscaper, pool maintenance, if you have that. There's a lot of other folks who are going to be helpful as well, accountants, tax attorneys, lots of different folks that make up your team. So be thinking about this as you're getting ready to launch your home. Hey, who do you need on your team? How can you find them? How can you hire them? And more importantly, how can you retain those good folks? Because that's going to be really important.
Yeah, that leads us to another important piece. A lot of people don't think about staffing till late in the journey. A lot of people don't think about marketing at all. And it's important to think about marketing before your home is open, because you need to have those things already ready to go. You need to have a list of people who want to move in day one. And then you need to be able to continuously attract residents. This is something I learned kind of the hard way as a residential real estate agent for a few years, where I was slinging houses as when I left the military for a couple of years. And what I found was you're just going to bang your head against the wall and wonder what's going on if you aren't out there doing kind of lead attraction. Client attraction is what I called it on the real estate side. In this case, it's resident attraction. You could still call them clients, I suppose, but it's so important to be able to do it this way, because you want your phone ringing off the hook of people who want to come see your home and want to come move in. You don't want to be doing the other way around, which is trying to figure out where the heck you're going to get your next resident from. So there's lots of ways you can do this. Certainly networking is going to be a big part of that, like networking with medical facilities, with case managers, with big box homes that don't have any more room. You can network with local businesses. There's going to be some really great tips on some of these first episodes on what businesses to go talk to, but you want to get in front of these businesses, and maybe you can even offer referrals to those business owners that would be much, much less expensive than a placement agency, right? $500 for a referral versus 5,000, right? Is going to be huge for you. And people are going to continuously talk about your home. Have an open house where you can bring people to see the home, whether that's local business owners, invite families, invite the fire marshal that helped approve the home, invite everybody you can think of. And guess what? They're going to spread the word for you. You can offer referrals from other resident families. But also importantly is you actually have to have an online presence. It's 2024. I had to look at the calendar. Like, is it 2025 yet? It's 2024. If you don't have a website that's SEO friendly, that doesn't immediately pop up when someone searches for assisted living in, Niceville, Florida, you're wrong, right? You need to have those things in place. You need to have a Google My Business profile. It's free. It will show up when people search for those exact terms. You need to have a social media presence. Okay, you need that. If it's just as simple as Facebook tied to an Instagram, that's fine. But you need to have something. It's not that hard to come up with a post a couple times a week. And you can go steps deeper. Like, you can create searchable content for YouTube, for blog posts, and those kind of things where you'll really show up first. You can layer on ads if you want to. You can host local events, but perhaps most importantly is tell everybody you know about your business on social media, in person, every group you go to, your church, the soccer moms, whatever it may be. Tell everybody about that, because that's an opportunity for a referral. The one thing you don't see on this list that I just talked about is rely on placement agencies.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think that telling everybody that you come into contact with about your assisted living home or opportunity also gets you the opportunity to find investors, who are folks who are going to want to invest in this home or your next home, and make it where you're able to go ahead and raise capital for these deals, so you're not coming out of pocket for it. Which, that's when you really scale, is when you don't have to bring your own personal money into the deal, which is awesome. We're at step 10 finally. Folks are probably like, hey, it's time.
Is it over?
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're still listening, thank you so much, and hopefully this is valuable. But step 10 is just prepare to launch. So you work through all those steps, and it is showtime. It's ready to get your residents in there, and it's ready to launch. There's a lot that goes into launch preparation, but we're just going to leave it at that. Step 10, prepare to launch. Get the home ready, get the residents moved in, get all your licensing requirements done, and get that license and get ready to go. Hit the ground running and provide great care for the residents that are there.
Yeah, and in this 10-step guide that we kind of walked you through, we've got that PDF version that Alex mentioned at the beginning. There's a checklist that is basically, if you can check all these boxes, you're ready to launch this thing. So go ahead and check out the show notes, or head over to the RAL-room.com, and you can, that's the RAL-room.com, and you can download that list and that checklist. And that'll kind of help you get an assessment of, is this right for me? Am I going to want to go down the residential assisted living road? In my personal opinion, this is the niche of the next couple decades. It's just written on the wall. And it really, truly is beautiful. If you do it right, you can create amazing, amazing homes that are really just communities. And it's beautiful. Everybody wins in this model, which is insane.
Yeah. It really is. Sorry for the little cough I got. But yeah, I agree. It is such an incredible model. Charlie, before we wrap things up here, for anyone who's listening, who's on the fence about getting involved or getting started in residential assisted living, what would you say to them? We've said a lot. You got anything else?
We have. I got the guide. I would say come join our Facebook group. That's Facebook.com/groups/residential assisted living. You can kind of get some more ideas there. Post all your questions. We'll answer them. And then if you really think you want to dive in, really get started in this business, besides listening to this podcast, of course, listen to every episode, give us a little love, maybe a little 5 stars. Then you can check out our mastermind as well. You can check out the RAL Room and see if learning with a community of like-minded investors and from industry experts who are on every single week, it could be helpful to you. That calculator is part of that. We've got classes and courses and stuff in there. And I think people they're loving it so far. So we're really excited to see where this goes and find more folks we can partner with.
Yeah, it's really cool that, in the RAL Room, even this week, right? Like, Chloe and Nick closed on their land. They're going to build a memory care mansion. How awesome is that? And so the plans are drawn up. They're getting ready to break ground, start building the memory care mansion. They're in the RAL Room. Jeb just signed with Legato Living for memory care franchise in Texas, and they're going to ultimately build out 10 memory care homes in North Texas. Like, folks are doing it, and it's awesome. And it's so cool for us in the RAL room as well to like be able to partner with them to learn from other folks' experiences and journey. And it's really fun for us to share ours too. So we're really glad that you're here. Really glad that you took the time to listen to this podcast episode. I know this one was a little bit more dry, but hopefully really tactical and really helpful for you as you're figuring out how to get started investing in residential assisted living. And we just love it. We absolutely love the opportunity. We love the journey. We love the opportunity to hopefully provide you some value today. So if you have learned something from this podcast, it's totally free, but you got to pay the fee. Just subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Leave a review, 5-star rating, please. If it's less than 5 stars, email charlie@theralroom.com and tell them why it's less than 5 stars and don't actually post it. But go ahead and do that for us as well. That helps more folks learn about residential assisted living and hear the good news. And ultimately, that's going to help more seniors get the care that they deserve. So let's go ahead and wrap things up, Charlie. Folks can listen to the next episode of the RAL Room Assisted Living podcast next week. And be sure to join us next time on the podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. We'll see you then.
Hell yeah. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is theralroom.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks. And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey. Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.